Now, I know Bravo2 is incredibly well documented, but can we talk about that just for a little bit?
Sure.
How do you look back on it now? Because the events of '91 have shaped your life in a whole different way than you could never have expected. So how do you look back on it now with hindsight?
With hindsight, certainly the job itself, still the same really. It's I feel quite lucky that I still look at it as that. Well, it happened. There's nothing like I can change about that, and I have not landed up, I don't know, barking at the moon or having nightmares. All that sort of stuff. It obviously it changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. The opportunity to write Bravo2.
What's your sort of darkest memory of being captured?
Physically getting captured. The whole point of the if you like, the whole thing tipping over into a negative was being on the border, about 2 k's from the Syrian border, and it was getting to first light. So what I didn't want to do was try and cross the border at first light. So I didn't know what physically it was, whether it was like barbed wire or wall. I didn't know. And so what I didn't want to do is get caught on the wire at first light and trying to get over, because it's only a political border, it's not like a social or an economic border. So just because you're over the other side, another 10 metres doesn't mean you're safe. So what I decided to do was stay in Iraq for that day, and then so it gives me all night to get over the border and then crack on to get as further north than as I could, to get away from the Syrian-Iraq border. So it was all right until about 4:30. I had about an hour and a half of light to go, and I was hiding in a drainage culvert with a half-inch steel sort of plate, and so there's vehicles rattling up and down all day. Lots of Iraqis about, all that sort of stuff. And I still don't know. Obviously, I was seen, but there wasn't anything where I thought, right, I was seen. So there was another couple of vehicles that ran over, but this time they stopped. Loads of guys out, sort of firing up in the air, firing into the ditch in the culvert, and it was then that I knew that was captured, and finally getting dragged out of the culvert, and it was still light. And Syria's high ground, so you've got the flat ground, and all of a sudden it's not sheer, but it looks like sheer high ground of Syria, about a K the other side of the border, and I could see it. It's like you could spit it.
You're that close.
Yeah, it's that close, and that, if you like, the darkest thing. So far, but it's a nightmare.
What was the feel like? Where did you feel it?
Everywhere really. It was like, do you know what? Everything was like sense of failure. Flapping big time. So I didn't know what was going to happen. Just all those negative feelings, and that really is. And it was seeing if it would have been at night, I'd been captured, it would have been different. But actually seeing Syria, and then getting dragged away and put into one of the wagons, there was that sense of failure, and that was it. And then that sense of unknown. But then after that, you just go, fuck it, can't do anything about it.
Can you explain what you went through when you were captured? Because you were tortured.
Yes.
What sort of things actually happened to you, and what actually happened mentally as well as physically?
Yeah.
I know some of it, but what did you go through mentally?
There was, well, certainly mentally, there was the obviously there was the fear of the unknown, and the fear that's manufactured by if you like, the system in an interrogation centre. Because we've got to remember is that the Iraqis were in a good lads club with us during the war with Iran. So a lot of officers were taught by the Brits. They'd been to Sandhurst, all this sort of stuff. So some of the systems you sort of recognised, but it didn't really help. It was the fear of being taken out of the cell, because there was always handcuffed and blindfolded, being taken out of the cell and taken to an interrogation. So obviously they would manufacture that even more by coming down the corridors, hollering and shouting, and then just go past my cell and then go to one of the other members of the patrol. And it was also almost a relief, because it's like, well, you don't want it to happen to him, but you're so glad they haven't come in again. And certainly in interrogations, they're very physical because of the nature of the people they've been interrogating with the war with Iran.
What did they do to you?
So was whipped, burnt with a paraffin heater. So there's no electric or running water because Baghdad was bombed every single night. Every single night it was bombed for hours and hours, and so they had paraffin heaters where they would heat spoons, and I had lots of friction burns, from the time of trying to get up to the Syrian border, and so they would rub them into the wounds in the inside of my legs. I had some teeth damage. My teeth were cracked because when I was captured, I was obviously beaten up, frustration from the guards. They have a nice word for it. It's called tactical questioning, but actually, you just get filled in because you get caught. And so I had this side pulled out by a guy with a pair of pliers who said he was a dentist who had practiced in Guy's Hospital for 9 years. Great English. His grammar's better than mine. It's great.
How did that feel?
Strange enough, at that stage, it was obviously very, very painful. But after a while, what happens? The body adapts quite well to pain. What you just black out. So even the Nazis discovered you can only go so far before it becomes counterproductive because you're not getting what you want out of the people, and which I did on that for sure. And then some of the beatings in the cells used to do like what we call a round robin, where they go into a cell, beat whoever's up, and they'll come into you. And in some ways, it was better if you were the first one because then it's done, sort of thing. By then, I'd been about 16 years about 15 years as a professional soldier. Being in the infantry, I'm used to being wet, cold and hungry. Being beaten up loads of time in garrison towns, all that sort of stuff. You can't control anything that happens physically. So all you got to do is put all of your efforts in retaining your mental sort of integrity.
Is there any emotional legacy? Are you haunted at all by what happened?
No, touch wood underneath. Very, very, very lucky. So no, and it does happen to people, but I've been very lucky.
How about some of the things that you did to others? I mean, you obviously killed people.
Yes. No, I'm all right with that. I first time I killed somebody when I was 19. I killed this guy called Peter McNab in South Oman, and I went into the bravado bit of all that, because nobody wants to know to tell you, say that you're scared, and so I decided not to tell anybody I was scared. It was only later on I understood that everyone's scared. They're lying or they're mentally deficient if they say they're not. But as a soldier, first of all, you've got a responsibility to yourself to stay alive. You've got a responsibility to whoever you are, the collective, whatever you're, a patrol, whatever it is, to keep each other alive. So certainly a lot of what the regiment do, Special Air Service, is not about confrontation. If you do that, there's things called fighting patrols where you will go out and actually go out to make contact with the enemy. But most of the time is actually to try and get somewhere, to do something, blow something up or poison someone or whatever it may be.
Poison someone?
Yes, you can put whether you contaminate the water system or you contaminate air ducts, whatever it may be. But so you're there to do something. So when things kick off, well, everybody's in the same situation. The fact is you've got a responsibility to stay alive. So the object is, because you're normally in a small group, is just crack on with it, get it done as quickly as possible and go away and get away. Because actually, 9 out of 10 times, they're normally going to be more of them than there are you. So get on with it and go. And people do that, and people die. But it really is the point that nobody's asking you to do that. That's part and parcel of being a soldier. And if you like, the job spec in the military doctrine of the infantry and special forces is to close into and destroy the enemy. That's what you do. So that's part and parcel of what you do. So if you don't like it, get out.
How many of the enemy did you close in on, would you say, in total?
What, during Bravo2?
Well, throughout your whole career.
People don't talk about it in that way, really. It's not as if, people have notches on their belts and all that sort of stuff. But there's certainly, taking Bravo2, the CIA reports that came back during the contacts as we were trying to get out, the estimates were around about 200 to 250 Iraqis that were killed or injured during that contacts, a series of contacts we had over 2 days to get out. And most of them were around the border because everybody was forcing, last 11 kilometres we had to try and sort of fight our way to the border during that last night. And again, you know, like you got responsibility. You just got to crack on and get on with it, because otherwise you're going to get killed.